What happened to online communities that used to thrive on the internet? Seriously, think about it. There was a time when being online felt a lot more alive than it does now. You'd stumble across weird little forums with thousands of people obsessed with one very specific thing. Maybe it was gaming, cars, fitness, music production, old movies, whatever it was, there was a place for it. And more importantly, it felt like people actually knew each other. You'd recognize usernames, you'd build inside jokes, you'd have arguments, sure, but it still felt like a community. Now compare that to today, where most people's online life happens inside a few giant platforms. Instagram, TikTok, YouTube, Reddit, maybe X. And somehow, despite being more connected than ever, the internet feels more lonely. I mean, at this point, does anybody recognize anybody else's username or persona on these big tech websites and platforms? I would argue that not, and it's probably only going to get worse as AI and bots become more and more normalized. So we're now dealing with a more fragmented and fake internet, where the weird niche corners of it that once made it feel exciting have slowly been replaced by giant feeds controlled by algorithms. Instead of communities, we now have audiences, and instead of conversations, we have engagement. The internet used to feel like a city full of different neighborhoods. Now it feels like a shopping mall. Everybody is pushed through the same few apps, seeing the same trends, hearing the same opinions, and consuming the same content over and over again. And the worst part is that these platforms are not really designed to build communities in the first place. They are designed to maximize attention. The longer you scroll, the more ads they can show you. The more emotional the content is, the more likely you are to react. That's why outrage spreads faster than thoughtful discussion. That's why short, low-effort content always seems to win. But people are burned out of that kind of content, in my opinion, and are yearning for something better, something novel and bold. If you enjoy videos like this one, where we dig into what is actually happening to the internet and where it might be heading next, hit that subscribe button because it helps me a ton. Now, part of the reason communities disappeared is because everything seemed to have become centralized. Back in the day, communities owned themselves. A forum existed because people wanted it to exist. A blog existed because somebody cared enough to write it. But now, entire communities live inside platforms they do not control. If Reddit changes its rules, your subreddit changes as well. If Meta bans a page or group, that community disappears immediately. People spend years building communities on these platforms, but in reality, they never owned them. They were just renting space. And once you realize that, you start to understand why the internet feels so unstable now. Everything is temporary. Everything depends on somebody else's servers, somebody else's algorithm, somebody else's rules. That is why people are starting to become more interested in peer-to-peer communities once again. These are smaller, more independent communities that are not trapped inside one company's ecosystem. That is also why Web3 projects like Qortal are interesting. Instead of relying entirely on giant platforms, Qortal allows communities to form around peer-to-peer groups, identities, and infrastructure that users actually participate in. It is a very different model from the social media world we are used to, and maybe that is what the internet needs more of. Less giant platforms, less algorithms, less endless feeds, and more actual communities again. Because if the internet is going to feel alive once more, it probably starts there. I'll see you in the next video.